Welcome to Lesson 5 in Unit 20, A Playground for All. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how can we reduce the impact of collisions on the playground? In this lesson, students investigate ways kids can get hurt on the playground by investigating collisions using balls, ramps, and different surface materials. Students figure out when objects collide, energy is transferred, which can change an object's motion or produce a sound. The more massive an object, the more energy it transfers in a collision. This results in a greater change in motion. Students make connections to the storyline by applying the concepts of energy transfer during collisions to design ways to protect kids from collisions that can happen on a playground. There are several opportunities for ELA and math cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 20 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 3 to 4 days to complete. To begin the engage portion of the lesson, you'll ask students what they've learned in previous lessons and what else they need to know in order to design a playground. You'll also ask questions about injuries that could happen on a playground and how forces and energy connect to getting hurt. You'll show students the first part of a news story about safety on the playground and allow students to turn and talk to generate observations and questions in small groups. You'll revisit the driving question board. You'll add any new questions and highlight any others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about how we can reduce the impact of collisions on the playground. For the Explore portion, you'll divide students into groups and give them the materials pictured here for the ramp collision investigation. You'll ask how they can use the materials to answer questions about playground collisions. Be sure to see the tutorial for specific setup and procedures for the investigation. Students will begin the Ramp Collisions student journal page during the investigation. You can post and discuss the Mass vocabulary card. For the Explain portion, you'll bring the class together and lead a discussion about students' observations from the investigation. You'll use the provided questions to guide your discussion around the question, how can we reduce the impact of collisions on a playground? The goal of this class discussion is to analyze student observations and explain how energy is transferred during collisions and how the amount of energy transferred can be reduced based on the objects or the surface of a collision. You'll use the discussion to create the Lesson 5 summary chart. From the discussion, students should understand that we can cover equipment and the playground surface with materials that slow down the motion of objects when they collide with it. This will help prevent kids from getting hurt during collisions. You'll then have students read the article, Understanding Collisions and Energy Transfer. You can post and discuss the collision and gravity vocabulary cards. You'll then allow students to revise their explanations in the analysis questions on the Ramp Collisions student journal page that they started during the investigation. For the Elaborate portion, you'll ask students what they think influences how much someone gets hurt when they fall. You'll then divide students into groups and give them the materials for the Falling Collisions investigation. Be sure to see the tutorial for detailed instructions for this investigation. You'll have groups use the Falling Collisions student journal page during the investigation. After the investigation, have students fill in the explanation in the Falling Collisions student journal page. You'll then have students turn and talk to share answers to questions about the effect of the surfaces on collisions and what they have figured out about playground collisions. You'll then show students the second part of the playground news story and ask them how the girls' solution might make collisions safer for kids on the playground. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students complete the Collisions Quick Check student journal page independently. To support student sense-making across the unit, orient them back to the driving question board. Ask, what did we learn about how we can prevent kids from getting hurt on a playground? And what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have asked questions that can be investigated about how different playground surfaces can prevent collisions, and planned and conducted an investigation to explore how the energy in moving objects transfers in collisions. In Lesson 6, students investigate how energy can transfer from sunlight onto playground surfaces and whether or not it is safe for kids. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.